Hey everybody, welcome back. Today we're taking a look at Tenchi Kurau 2 on the Sega Saturn, a 2D beat-em-up developed and published by Capcom. It was originally released in arcades in 1992 and called Warriors of Fate in the West. This and the PlayStation port were both released exclusively in Japan in 1996. All of the Tenchi Kurau games, including the 8-bit RPGs, are based on a series of manga set in China that adapts all of the characters and events in the Romance of the Three Kingdoms novel. So if you've played any of the Romance of the Three Kingdoms games or Dynasty Warriors, then you'll see a lot of recognizable characters here. Like I said, this is a 2D Capcom beat-em-up, and when you start playing it, assuming you've played some of their other beat-em-ups, you'll pretty much feel right at home. I was actually very much reminded of Knights of the Round and even the D&D beat-em-ups to a certain extent. You have 5 characters to choose from, each with varying levels of speed, power, and range, the archer being the prime example of that. He's very useful from a distance, but pretty much useless up close. The controls are pretty much standard for the genre. You have an attack button, a jump button, and of course by pressing the two together, you can perform a power attack that takes off a chunk of your health. You can also perform a dash tackle maneuver with the jump button combined with the directional buttons. Another staple of the beat-em-up genre, the items are also present here. You can pick up point bonuses, food to replenish your health, and of course weapons like clubs and swords, etc. Definitely the most useful item is a gong that summons a horse for you to ride. The horse not only increases your movement speed and range, but the dash attack is so useful that you'll never want to play without the horse. Just be careful, because if you fall off during a boss battle, the boss can actually steal your horse, which makes them just that much more difficult. There are also a couple of different bonus levels where you try to eat as much as possible or destroy a bunch of wooden dummies. I'd rather be destroying a sports car, but what can you do? Overall, this is a very enjoyable beat-em-up that doesn't really do anything revolutionary, but it's still really fun. It's pretty typical 90s Capcom affair. I'm kind of split on the presentation though. The graphics are great. They're really colorful and the backgrounds are pretty detailed, and there will often be a lot of enemies on the screen at any one time. But the soundtrack is pretty lame in my opinion. It's just kind of bland orchestral music that doesn't really match the action all that well. It's not grating or annoying, just very underwhelming. On the whole, it's a really well made game with some nice graphics and fun gameplay, just not a soundtrack I would have chosen to put into such an action-packed game. This is a really fun and well-made beat-em-up. It's nothing new, but it is enjoyable, so I can easily recommend it to fans of the genre. It can be a pretty costly game online though, potentially as much as $100, which I don't think is reasonable, but the PlayStation version is usually at least $40 less, so it's really up to you and how much you love this type of game. If you've played and enjoyed a lot of the other beat-em-ups made by Capcom and you think you'd enjoy this one too, then I say go for it. It's a lot of fun.